Okay, so I'm fully aware that putting 10 Omni Forma on a Wukong, or just any frame period, is pointless, right? And I kind of realised that I'd say about 6 or 7 Omni Forma in, but I just wanted to do this for the memes, man. What else am I going to do, okay? There's nothing to do on the game right now. I'm too busy waiting for the next update. You know what? It was worth it. I have a clean slate Wukong where I can put on any helmet whatsoever, and then any build, just fucking fire away any mods that I want, whenever. And now I have complete freedom on my clean slate Wukong. This is fun as hell. And I've been experimenting with some new Wukong setups. If you haven't seen the previous Wukong guide we did, a lot of you guys seem to really enjoy the Sun God Wukong setup, which I'm super proud of. That one's really fun. I still use it. And turns out, there's a subsume, which I haven't used before, on Wukong at least, and now I've written down a list of frames that this is going to be really good on. Who would have thought that Pyrotechnics is just crazy good on a bunch of different Warframes, not just Nezha. We showed it off with Nezha recently, but bro, this simple fire damage AoE skill is busted. And here's how you make it good, okay? It turns out Pyrotechnics, in which you send up a bunch of fiery pillars in front of you, is really good with grouping skills. Of course, my dumbass immediately thinks to my main, it's like, oh my god, Wukong. You guys might not remember, but Wukong has its own grouping skill. If you do the forward combo with Primal Fury, it drops down a vortex, kind of like a shorter range vortex, Vauban's ult, groups enemies up. And this skill is broken with grouping techniques. So I'm talking, if you want to look at Ureli, this is actually where I first, started realizing this. Somebody in my comments said, use it with Ureli's ult. And yeah, all those heat procs do stack, if especially if you want to use Arcane Vitality to double your heat procs. You don't even really need to do much else. You could go with some viral priming, maybe throw in some corrosive at the same time. Doesn't matter. It's gonna kill shit. You don't even really need much strength either. And on Wukong, I feel like I just made a new setup that not anyone is really gonna bother using. And of course, like, I get it, it's a meme. It's not the most optimal thing in the world, but I don't want every build on this channel to be optimal. I want this shit to be fun. And sure, if you're grouping enemies with Wukong's forward combo, you're probably just gonna kill them with Primal Fury anyway. But what if you want to have a bit more fun and start killing enemies with Pyrotechnics from grouping enemies up with your 4? Now you have that in a setup. And I gotta say, this is some of the most fun I've had on Wukong. Really worth trying. And we've got all the Omni Forma on the setup, so I can just throw in whatever subsumes and mods I want. I don't know what to call this setup, but it's brand new, and I just wanted to show it to you guys. And you may be surprised to see that we've actually removed Defy, which normally would be our go-to form of survivability, but you can shield gate really effectively with this build and throw on shield regen if you want, because you're spam casting Pyrotechnics so often. It's got efficiency to keep your 4 active, so you can group enemies up with that forward combo. You could also use melee vortex, but it's kind of redundant if you just use the forward combo. Okay, so editing Guapeeee here, just a quick asterisk on that statement. I actually think that melee vortex is a really good option for this build, because in the gameplay footage in the background, in which I was trying to test in like going up in level and grouping enemies as they tank the initial hits of Primal Fury, some enemies, especially Eximus, they don't really fall into the vortex, and the vortex range actually isn't too great. And the melee arcane I was using in the footage was melee duplicate, which you're probably better off using melee duplicate depending on the arcane that's on your Wukong, because I'm using Arcane Hotshot in this build, which I end up mentioning later. And that means my crit ends up going into the reds, and I'm pretty sure melee duplicate only works on yellow crits. So if you're not using Arcane Hotshot, then melee duplicate's probably the way to go. But if you're using Arcane Hotshot and you've got those high crits, then melee vortex for more consistent grouping, as long as you have a magnetic mod on your Primal Fury, is probably going to be the better option. Then you can shield gate mashing Pyrotechnics, you've still got your Wu clone if you want, and you've got your Cloudwalker for heals. And as you can imagine, this build kind of inspired me to start looking at other frames in which I can put Pyrotechnics on. As you can imagine, this is kind of sapping me of resources by subsuming this onto other frames, so I can't do this in one video right now. We're just looking at Wukong. But just know, Pyrotechnics is kind of one of the best subsumes in the game. And of course, as for some things that can make this more effective, I think throwing on a Panzervolpifier to proc that viral, make sure enemies are debuffed to the HP, is effective for overall more DPS. Arcane Vitality is probably a must, but Power Strength 3 isn't. Doubling up your heat procs is already probably good enough. But Strength is of course going to increase your overall damage. And you guys can rejoice because I'm actually not using melee influence for once. You should all be proud of me. I'm using Arcane Continuity on my Wukong build, and then I'm building my Primal Fury for Toxin, so I can both proc Toxin and Corrosive at the same time, stripping a little bit of armor from enemies I hit within that vortex, making them more susceptible to those heat explosions. And as for my melee arcane, we're using melee duplicate. No real reason, I just felt like it because, you know, it's fun. But you could also go melee vortex if you want to proc more vortexes overall, but you just use the forward combo, bro. That shit's pointless, high key. And speaking of arcanes, because we're proccing a lot of fire, we can also use hotshot on this build, much like the previous Sun God Wukong build, so we can get a shit ton of crit chance on our Primal Fury. So from just a Primal Fury Exalted standpoint, this build is also really strong. You've got almost level cap levels of survivability at the same time with that shield gating, and a secondary way to kill enemies other than your Exalted with those fire explosions. I will say with a build like this, it is more optional to whether or not you want to use Naramon or Madurai. Madurai is going to benefit the casting speed and power strength of your Pyrotechnics, which is really nice, but Naramon is going to be more focused on keeping that combo count up for your Exalted weapon. Anywho, I just thought I'd meme around a little bit, show you off my stupid ass Wukong with this new setup I found. If I find anything new and unique, I'll also share it. Coming up with Wukong ideas for builds that are both effective and kind of fun and different is a bit tricky, but this is my latest one at least. But anyway, you guys get the idea. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Appreciate all the support on the channel as per usual, and see you guys in the next one. Take care.